Everyone knows the Japanese car company Toyota. I mean, who hasn't heard of the company behind the Corolla? Well, according to a leaked internal document, Toyota recently warned its dealerships across North America to prepare for a potential shortage of engine oil. Yes, the oil we pour into engines to reduce friction, cool the engine, clean internal parts, and prevent wear and tear. That's the oil they're talking about. In the document, dated the 30th of April, 2026, Toyota instructed dealers that vehicles designed for ultra-thin 0W8 oil could temporarily use the slightly heavier 0W16 oil in roughly 20% of oil change cases. Meanwhile, cars that normally use 0W16 could temporarily switch to 0W20 in about 10% of cases. But there was an important condition: any substitute oil should only be used for a single maintenance cycle. At the next oil change, vehicles were expected to return to their original recommended oil. So, why would Toyota make a move like this? The answer traces back to the war launched by US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against Iran at the end of February, a conflict that completely reshaped the region and triggered the closure of the world's most important energy uh, choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. Iran shut down the strait almost immediately after the war began, trapping a massive portion of Gulf energy exports inside the Persian Gulf. The result? What many analysts are now calling the worst energy crisis in modern history. The scale of the disruption caused by the closure of Hormuz is difficult to overstate. Right now, a growing crisis is unfolding in the global market for engine oils and industrial lubricants. Supply is shrinking fast, and as long as the strait remains closed, shortages are expected to get worse, especially as global inventories continue to drain. Most people still haven't fully noticed the problem yet, but what exactly is happening? Why has the situation escalated so quickly over the past few weeks? Why does shutting down Hormuz directly affect the global supply of motor oils and lubricants? And why could we soon see engine oils disappearing from shelves while maintenance costs explode? More importantly, why does this market seem completely trapped, like a line of dominoes falling with no obvious way out? That's exactly what we're breaking down in today's video. Prices in the engine oil market have tripled in just 2.5 months, and I'm not making that up. Um, in the past, manufacturers would raise prices by maybe 70 or 80 cents per gallon for distributors. Today, producers are increasing prices by at least $5 per gallon, even for their biggest bulk buyers. And look, that's not coming from me. Those are the words of Tom Glenn, founder of Petroleum Trends International and publisher of Lubes and Greases magazine, speaking to CNN about the chaos unfolding in the lubricant industry since the war with Iran began. Um, so what's forcing oil producers to squeeze distributors this hard? Simple, because the market is squeezing them too. The entire industry is trapped, and nobody really knows how to escape the pressure. But to understand how we got here, you first need to understand how engine oil is actually made. Here's something most people never think about: engine oil isn't just oil, it's actually part of a broader category called lubricant substances designed to reduce friction and wear between moving parts. Think engine oils, transmission fluids, hydraulic oils, all of that. And to make any of those fluids, manufacturers need one critical raw material: base oil. Base oil is basically the foundation of almost every lubricant you've ever used, especially motor oil. Without it, nothing gets made. Now, the American Petroleum Institute divides base oils into 5 groups, but honestly, for what we're talking about today, only two really matter: Group 2 and Group 3. Group 3 is the premium stuff. Uh, Better purity, handles extreme heat better, performs well in cold weather, lasts longer before breaking down. Uh, that's why it goes into modern low viscosity oils like 0W20, 0W16, and 0W8. The oils most new cars run on today. Group 2 is still a solid oil used in regular passenger cars, trucks, industrial equipment, just not as advanced. But here's the number that really puts things in perspective. Base oil makes up around 75% of a standard engine oil formula. In some industrial lubricants, that climbs all the way to 98%. So when base oil supply gets hit, prices go up, availability drops. The entire lubricant industry feels it immediately. There's no way around it. And that's exactly what's happening right now. On the morning of February 28th, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran, reportedly killing several senior Iranian political and military leaders, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Trump reportedly believed the war would end within days. Netanyahu apparently believed Israel, with U.S. support, could destabilize the Iranian regime quickly. But as the conflict unfolded, it became clear both sides had underestimated Iran's ability to absorb the shock and retaliate. Iran quickly regrouped and began launching missiles and drones toward Israel. But according to Trump himself, the real surprise wasn't the retaliation, it was Iran's decision to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and target energy infrastructure across the Gulf. Closing Hormuz was devastating not only for the region, but for the global economy. Before the war, roughly 20 million barrels of oil and petroleum products passed through the strait every single day, nearly 20% of global oil supply. So, naturally, disrupting a waterway that important sent oil prices soaring. At the time of recording, Brent crude is trading around $105 per barrel. Just before the war, it was sitting near $72. Higher crude prices automatically push up the cost of petroleum products, including base oils. But unfortunately, rising oil prices are only part of the problem. The bigger issue is that global refining capacity for Group 2 and Group 3 base oils has also been hit hard. That happened in two major ways. First, many refineries around the world have struggled to secure enough crude oil due to supply disruptions. The International Energy Agency expects refinery throughput to fall by roughly 4.5 million barrels per day during the second quarter of 2026. Second, several critical Gulf energy facilities were directly targeted during the conflict. One of the most important was Qatar's Pearl GTL plant, a joint venture between Qatar Energy and Shell. It's the largest gas to liquids facility in the world and one of the biggest producers of base oils globally. Facilities operated by ADNOC in the UAE and Bapco in Bahrain were also hit. Before the war, these three suppliers alone accounted for roughly 44% of U.S. imports of Group 3 base oils. And on top of the physical damage, the closure of Hormuz itself cut global markets off from a massive portion of Gulf production. In May 2026, Bloomberg reported that Chevron and Motiva Enterprises had begun allocating only the minimum contracted quantities of Group 2 and Group 3 base oils to customers. The biggest shortage right now is in Group 3 oils, the high quality oils needed for modern low viscosity engine lubricants. Normally, during shortages like this, manufacturers temporarily switch to Group 2 oils as a substitute. But this time, that solution isn't really working. Why? Because diesel prices have exploded. Refineries are now using feedstocks that would normally go into Group 2 base oils to produce ultra profitable diesel instead. Diesel refining margins recently reached their highest levels in 40 years. For the first time ever, Group 2 base oils are actually less valuable than diesel fuel itself. As a result, refiners simply have little incentive to prioritize lubricant production. So, what about relying on producers outside the Gulf? South Korea seems like the obvious answer. The country controls somewhere between 35 and 38% of global Group 3 production capacity. But there's a catch. South Korea imports about 61% of its crude oil through the very same Strait of Hormuz that is now closed. In other words, the same bottleneck still exists. Without crude oil, nobody can produce Group 2 oils, Group 3 oils, or much of anything else. Current estimates suggest U.S. inventories of Gulf sourced Group 3 oils could run dry by June. And if that happens, we could see two major consequences. First, high quality motor oils may begin disappearing from the market almost entirely. Second, prices could reach levels most car owners simply can't afford. The International Lubricants Association has already warned of imminent shortages in low viscosity oils like 0W16, 0W8, and 0W20, some of the most important oils used in modern vehicles today. That could leave drivers with difficult choices, temporarily switching to lower quality oils or delaying recommended oil changes altogether. In short, this is how the world is currently trying to adapt to a motor oil crisis that likely never would have happened if the Strait of Hormuz had remained open. And ironically, the focus on Hormuz has become so overwhelming that many people have forgotten how this war started in the first place. So, here's today's question for you. If you own a car, have you tried changing your oil recently? And if you have, did you notice anything unusual, higher prices, shortages, or delays at service centers? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Peace.